Hey everybody, this is Jared with CX Disruptors. We have a very special episode today with two CEOs, Phil and Sam from 8x8. I'm going to let them introduce themselves first, and we will dive right into the questions. Sam, would you like to start?
Sam Wilson, CEO, 8x8. We're a UCaaS, CCaaS, CPaaS provider globally.
Phil Heltewig, CEO and one of the three founders of Cognigy. I don't think I need to introduce Cognigy. Probably everyone on the call here knows us.
All right, I'll dive right in. So, first question, how will AI-enabled automation, and that's including both conversational and generative AI, transform the contact center and the future of customer experience?
All right, I guess that's a good question for me, because that's what we do here at Cognigy. We transform customer experiences using artificial intelligence, both on chat and voice. Now, the question is, how will it transform it in the future? And you could also say, how is it already transforming customer experience now, right? And why now? Why not 10 years ago? And artificial intelligence, or we should probably say machine learning, has made a lot of progress in the past couple of years, and in a lot of different areas, right? Whether that is transcription of speech to text, generating voices using text to speech, using natural language understanding algorithms, et cetera, et cetera. So there's been a lot of progress in artificial intelligence. All of these technologies are now coming together, and they're really enabling a unique customer experience that's instant, personalized, available on many channels. So I think that is what is really making AI very, very applicable at the moment. And we're just going to see that increase in the future, right? There are amazing things coming out. I mean, omnichannel is becoming a big thing, where texting and messaging is becoming huge for many enterprises these days. Well, there's also future stuff like Apple Vision Pro that's coming out. So if you have a virtual or AR customer service agent, how are you going to communicate with them, right? You're going to use conversational AI for that. And that's what we're doing. And so, yeah, it's super exciting times, and AI is already making a difference, and it's only going to get bigger.
And I would say what we're trying to do from our side is take that great answer that Philip gave and make it applicable to a contact center or a UC or a company today. So there's always been the promise of artificial intelligence and machine learning solving a plethora of problems. The hard part has always been getting it into production, getting it to solve problems today and tomorrow. What we're really focused on is having the workflow capabilities inside of the contact center, in particular in this case, where we can bring to bear these next generation ML/AI technologies, but not make it an island off unto themselves. So as everybody knows, we have a relationship with Cognigy, amazing product. The place we come in is a case, a person comes in and interacts with the bot, which we call ICA, Intelligent Customer Assistant, and they get stuck. They get stuck for whatever reason. And usually they get stuck because they came in wanting something simple answered, and then they've now got a more complex question. We can transfer that to an agent. And we transfer that to an agent with authentication, with the metadata attached, with the chat attached. So it becomes a great experience. All of us have been through the situation where we've done something with a bot or an artificial intelligence, and then we need to talk to a live agent because it's a corner case. And then we have to re-authenticate, we have to explain everything again, and that's a miserable customer experience. So what we're trying to do is take that amazing technology that Cognigy's developed and bring it into the contact center and make it applicable into the workflows that are in the contact center today, to make it a sort of a first-class citizen among all the other capabilities of a contact center.
I think that's very important, right? Because I think when a lot of people think about artificial intelligence or bots, right, be it chatbots or voice bots, they're thinking about end-to-end automation. Right, customers speaking to the bot resolves the issue, or the customer gets stuck, and then the experience is of course not great, right? Whereas the truth is, you don't have to do an end-to-end automation. You can, right? And if you can, that's great. But you can also only automate part of the experience, where you do authentication or you do intelligent routing because you figured out who the customer is, and then you hand the conversation to a human agent who now does not have to start from the beginning, but the customer is already authenticated. They know what the customer wants. Maybe you use some agent assist technologies to pop information about the customer case on the agent's screen, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really AI and human agents working hand in hand to give the customer what they want, which is the quickest resolution to their issue.
That is absolutely spot on. So let me take that and now make it a real life example. So we have a bank that uses, is going to be a beta site customer for our intelligent customer assistant voice version based on Cognigy. And the number one thing that the call center gets is, what's my balance? Very simple question. But usually it's what's my balance in conjunction with, I want to get a car loan, I'm looking at a mortgage, I need to do something. And generally that's where you want an agent, because this involves a sales process. So the front end, the bot is going to take care of authentication, getting the balance and displaying that, and then asking, can an agent help you with a specific banking interaction today? Now we've turned the contact center both into a highly productive asset and a revenue generating asset. And that becomes a very powerful aspect. And I've got a dozen examples on top of that, very similar, of that human being and bot interactions together to solve a complete problem.
Well, that's perfect, because that hits right on the next question, which I think you jumped a little bit, is what are the practical applications of generative AI and conversational AI? And what I'm particularly interested in, you gave some customer-facing examples, is thinking about both the customer side, but also the agent side. And do you see one as maybe being more important to get started with first, for example, internally, before you have it outward facing?
Well, so I can answer this question 10 different ways, and I'm gonna give you a couple, and then we'll see where it takes us.
All right.
So first and foremost, what we find is that every contact center has sort of a Pareto chart of, this is the most frequent reason people contact us to the least frequent reason. And what's happened over the last 20 years is the channels by which that question gets asked is fragmented radically. We call it omni-channel, but it's WhatsApp, it's SMS, it's voice, it's chatbots, et cetera. All right, so the best use case to start is tackle those big ones. Tackle the big ones that are relatively straightforward, relatively simple, not corner cases. Cognigy is absolutely brilliant at helping us solve those problems and get it in. And this has two benefits. Number one is the bot's working 7/24, 365 days a year, solving that problem very fast and efficiently across a broad range of channels. Now, the customer loves it because they get a fast answer to a relatively straightforward thing and don't have to wait on hold and don't have to wait for a human being, and et cetera. The second thing is, by the way, is that most contact centers have attrition between 30 and 40%. And when you talk to why agents leave contact centers, because it's boring. It's the same question over and over again. And as soon as we can use Cognigy's technology to peel off that boring question and really getting the human beings working on the interesting corner case problems and really solving customer problems, attrition plummets. So this is one of those rare situations in business where we're going to get a pure win-win. We get higher resolution rates, higher customer satisfaction, et cetera, and we get better attrition, better agent capabilities, better agent productivity. And so this is about separating the lanes and having the bot solve, the things that they are very good at, the repetitive things, very rapidly, and having the human being solving the things they're very good at, which is the very complex problems that it's better for a human being to solve today. Now, 20 years from now, we'll worry about 20 years from now, but today, that's the first best use. Now, what are the logical examples? I mentioned earlier, what's my balance? We have a lot of service customers, and the most frequent question they get is, when's my appointment? Can I reschedule my appointment? And the fact that the bot can reach into the CRM system where the appointment is kept, pull it, and say, do you need this rescheduled? Here's what's available in your area next week, next month. Absolutely fantastic, right? That's that rote stuff. Now, I'm actually having a real life problem right now, or I need a doctor, or I'm having a special, that's where human beings do better. And so in healthcare, services, banking, financial services, warranty, tech support, any of those kinds of things, that's the synergy of the two things together actually is applicable and in real life today. And we have customers running our intelligent customer assistant based on Cognigy, who have seen 30 and 40% case deflections in weeks after deploying the technology. Why? Because it's taking those simple use cases and take up, at the same time, customer satisfaction up and agent satisfaction up.
I think this is the big question. Why are we paying humans right now to do machines work? I think just repetitive stuff.
This is a good, funny question you're asking, because you might think that conversational AI leads to cost savings, a lot of cost savings, right? The truth is, as Sam has said, there are a lot of issues with attrition in the contact centers, etc. So usually contact centers are understaffed, right? And so what we're seeing is that conversational AI really makes the customers' lives easier because they get the answers quicker, they get the issues resolved quicker, but also makes the agents' lives easier, right? Because they don't have to deal with these repetitive and easy to answer questions, etc., etc. So I think, and the question you asked earlier, right? What about the customer-facing side? What about the agent-facing side? I think it's a great question, and as Sam said, you can answer it in so many different ways, right? Because if you outline maybe the perfect journey, and it can be infinitely complex, right? But let's take an airline use case. So you either call or you chat with an airline virtual assistant, and firstly they identify you, right, in an automated way. So they ask you for the booking code, for the name, and then they pull up your booking and they ask you what you would like to change. And maybe you need to do something really complex, right? That like maybe my daughter, because we had moved the flight, my daughter is now across the age threshold where she needs her own seat and I need to change something. And maybe the bot can't help with that. Forwards me to an agent. Agent gets all the information. While I ask questions, and another bot, which we call Agent Assist, right, retrieves my inputs and surfaces information either from a knowledge base or from business systems directly to the agent, right? That can be prices, real-time prices, things like that. So I go through my conversation with the agent. The agent is enabled to help me in a much quicker way. But then the agent can also hand me back to a bot, for example, to collect the payment, right? So for PCI compliance, etc. So there can be a back and forth between the bot and the agent, customer facing, and other bots supporting the agent in the background. So it's really the AI-enabled contact center has all of these components. And as Sam said, even though that what I've outlined is a relatively complex case, you don't need to start with a complex case to get the value, right? We've seen customers that start with simple things like FAQs, right? Then all of a sudden you have deflection, as you said, 40, 50% within weeks, right? And it's just because 80% of the calls you're getting in are just FAQ type of questions, right? And then you have the transactions, and then you do exactly what Sam said. You look at, okay, which are the transactions that come up most, right? So for example, when we had the COVID crisis, we saw that in Europe, we had this thing where, okay, you could fly from Germany to Spain, but you could not fly from Spain to France, but from France to Spain was fine, but only to this airport. So it was very complex, right? And Lufthansa, just by putting a bot in that only answered that question, this was their first bot that they built within, I think, 2 weeks or something like that, right? They already deflected a huge number of inquiries. Then later, as it was possible to fly again, but as still airports shut down sometimes or routes were shut down, refunds became very important. So that was an actual end-to-end transaction where refunds needed to be automated, right? And so in that way, you look at what are the current topics that are causing the most traffic and which ones of those are easy to automate, because you have some cases that you just can't easily automate, right? And then you automate the low-hanging fruits, so to speak, that take up the most agent time. And in that way, you create a positive experience both for the customers and for the agents.
And if I could add one thing back to the agent side. So we've deployed these technologies in-house to 8x8, right? So for several years ago, we have a machine learning bot that helps for tech support. Simple. It actually didn't reduce the number of agents. What we did was we actually increased the number of tier 2 agents. We took our previous tier 1 agents. Everybody's familiar with these terms, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? We took our traditional tier 1 agents. We have less tier 1 agents, even though we have more customers, more revenue than we did 3 years ago, but we have more tier 2 agents. And what that allowed was an agent to start to become a career, start to become a real job, not something you do for 2 to 3 years and burn out and do something else, but you're actually starting to become a support engineer. And you're getting trained with skills. We up-leveled the skills. We pay them more because they're tier 2. They're solving more complex problems. They're taking more customer ownership. What's the net effect? Faster time to resolution, higher NPS score, happier customers, better retention rate, more revenue to my bottom line, right? And that use case is very doable for much. If we remove the rote stuff, the easy use cases quickly, before we tackle the more complex ones, the whole magic pays for itself really darn fast.
I think that's kind of the topic that gets overlooked, is people like to worry about agent replacement, but the reality is, as you just gave an example, is it's actually displacement upwards in the value chain.
Yeah,
They're still
want,
needed.
I mean,
we just need them for more important, more complex things. They're not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere. What you want is, because the problem you have when you actually run a contact center is you're trying to say, okay, I've got like tier 1 agents and tier 2 agents, and I need to blend them, and I need to figure out the right number. But really, like, your dream would be no tier 1 agents and all highly skilled tier 2 agents that you can put through rotationals. Maybe they work in dev for a while and then transfer over to the contact center, whatever the case may be. But this becomes a real job, and they solve all those complex problems for whatever type of industry you're in, right? It can be claims adjustment for insurance. If you could get rid of, we have an insurance provider that's looking at using ICA, and what they want to remove is, where's my claim? I submitted my claim, what's my status? If they can get that out of the way, they can have more room for claims adjusters. More rooms for claims adjuster means faster payment. Faster payment means higher NPS score, means they get more business. Right. And so this becomes that virtuous cycle that's very doable inside the contact center walls.
No, I think what we've made clear is that AI anymore is it's clear that it's not hype, that it's if anything, one of these must-have pillars, right? Just like you've got to have a CRM, you've got to have a case management system, right? You've got to have some kind of a CCaaS system. AI is no different. But I think that one of the questions, at least we hear a lot, is, can I actually implement it, right? What is actually required for a contact center to be ready, or what do they need to have in place in order to implement AI? Is it specific technology? Is it a specific strategy? Is it just mindset?
So I would say, first and foremost, you need to understand why your customers are calling, right? If you buy a given technology, buy a hammer, but you don't know what you're nailing in, it doesn't really matter, right? And so what I find is actually the number one question, and I'll sort of use the sales process, but the number one, you sit down with a contact center leader, and you don't start by saying, hey, I want to sell you some AI technology. You start by saying, what's your case deflection strategy? How do you think about case deflection? What are your KPIs that you're trying to achieve? Okay. And then you start to say, okay, let's jointly develop this. Look, in terms of getting the technology in, we've got services, you've got services, we've got professional services. Like, we can nail that all day long. What the problem I have is when we sit down for the statement of work, and it's like, well, I don't know, my boss wants me to install a bot. What do you want the bot to do? I don't know, like some body stuff. Like, okay, this is going to go sideways fast, right? So it's really understanding, to me, it's understanding I have a case deflection strategy. Here's what win looks like, and here's why people call our contact center. Now, after that, if your knowledge base is better, et cetera, everybody thinks ChatGPT is going to solve the world's problems. It's not. And the reason why, it's a general purpose large language model. It doesn't actually work well at what's my balance, or how do I reboot a Poly 411 phone, or how do I get zero touch provisioning to work? The vast majority of phone calls and omni-channel that comes into a contact center are customer specific or product specific problems. A large language model based on the internet is not going to be great at solving those problems. It just isn't. Far be it from the fact you can manipulate it to do lots of bad things too. So what you really need is, you need a solution that's based on the technology of machine learning and artificial intelligence that's suitable for your use case, your specific use case. That's where the magic happens.
And I think I totally support everything that Sam said. But I want to say the one thing that you don't need to get started, and I think this is a common misconception. You don't need a lot of data. You don't need years and years of transcripts or anything like that. Quite frankly, they're actually rather useless for traditional conversational AI. Yes, you can use them to maybe fine-tune an LLM or something like that, but you don't need transcribed phone calls, anything like that, right? You don't need that kind of data. What you do need is, you need an understanding of, why are my customers contacting me? Or even if you don't have that, you just put a bot in that just does one thing. It asks you why you contacted us, and you start collecting that data. I think a lot of companies out there are surprised how quickly you can actually get started. and this is not a marketing spiel here, you can try this out. Sometimes I say this to enterprises that I meet. They say, okay, so how quickly can we see something? And I say, well, 30 minutes, maybe, right?
Exactly.
And you can, right? You can use our type of technology, and within 30 minutes, you will have a basic bot, yeah, but you will have something that you can try out and then iterate from. So it's really not, it really doesn't take a lot to get started. I think the most important thing is to think about, why do I want to get started? As Sam said, to have a bot that's not really a requirement. It's kind of like, yeah, okay, I want to buy a car. Why? Yeah, because I want a car. Well, why? Do you want to transport something, or do you want to go on holidays, or what is it, right? So I think that is very important. You need to have the right strategy. I think you need to also have strategic buy-in from the management layer, because this becomes a strategic initiative, right? Because a lot of customers that are calling you, the AI will be the first entity they interact with, right? Whether it's on voice or whether it's on chat. So you need strategic buy-in for this, and then you just need to get started. And it's not very difficult to get started. And I think that is the main takeaway that a lot of our new customers have, that, okay, this was really easy to get started with.
I'm going to add two more small things to that. Number two, if you're a bigger company and you're scared about making this customer facing on day one, do it for internal applications. Do you know, if you're a business leader, do you know how many times your HR department gets pinged every day with the exact same question? Do you know how many times your IT department gets pinged with the exact same question throughout the day? And on my board is Liz Theophile, who is a CIO at Novartis, and they have something like 20 bots running internally, just answering employee questions across a raft of languages. And I mean, HR questions are dependent on what country you're in. The answers can be different, and those are great use cases for that internal application. So if you're scared to make it customer facing on day one, trust me, there's a ton of productivity you can get internal to your larger organizations by working on that internally on day one also.
And quite frankly, even if you are scared to make it customer facing, you should ask yourself the question, well, what is it that I'm scared of? If you literally just have a bot that's doing triage, right? So it authenticates the customer and asks, why are you contacting us? And then hands over to an agent. That can't fail, right? It just can't fail. So there's really nothing to be scared of, and you can already get a ton of value out of that.
So we have a use case, real life use case running today on Cognigy of a very large PC manufacturer. And all it does on day one, on the first interaction, is give me your serial number. So let's think this through, right? First, something like X number percent, 30, 40% don't know where the serial number is on their PC. So the bot then says, okay, turn your PC over, here's your serial number, type it in. When the person types it in, it immediately looks up if it's under warranty or not. If it's under warranty, it transfers it one way. If it's not under warranty, it transfers it a different way. That's simple. Massive productivity improvement, because the first thing that happened on every single human being interaction was, what's your serial number? And the person then had to take the device that they were typing on and turn it upside down to try to look for the serial number and get it turned over and figure out where it is and all that stuff. Meanwhile, the agent's sitting on hold, sitting there waiting. Like, just all that stuff's out of the way. It's like all out of the way. So Philipp's spot on. There are small use cases, massive productivity enhancement. There are large use cases. There are internal use cases. Just get started.
I also find one of the interesting implicit takeaways is neither of you said technology was actually a barrier. I think this is something just from talking to people. They imagine that they need a certain type of infrastructure. They need to be, advanced to a specific point. They think, oh, we're so far behind. We have all these, this mix of on-prem and cloud systems. We're not even going to think about getting started.
I would say on the technology side, the only real mistake I see made after people sort of embrace this is they sometimes make bots islands unto themselves. And then you can get a bad customer interaction. So I come on board, I do what the bot's been trained to do, it's very good at, and then I need some help. I've lost my credit card and I need my credit card sent to a different location than the one that's on record, and I need to speak to an agent. And if the bot's an island and it can't be transferred to a live agent with the authentication attached, then the person, usually what the bot will say is, please call this number. And then the person has to start all over again. That's the only place on the technology side. Don't make this an island If it's an island, you're going to get bad customer outcomes in a minority, not a majority, I mean a minority of the cases, but they're going to be nasty bad outcomes. This is where I think phase one went wrong, is they're like, oh, we're going to install a bot and it's over here in a completely different part of the contact center. It's got to be thought of together.
That's the thing, right? It has to be an extension of your contact center strategy. We've all had these frustrating experiences where we had to use a bot and then we get stuck and that was it, right? Or it would tell us to call somewhere. Actually, I tested a bot the other day in the US for an airline. And when you got stuck, it would tell you to call them, but it would cost some like $3 a minute to call them, right? It said in the bot. So essentially, call us, but don't call us. So yeah, you need to make it an extension of your contact center strategy. It has to be integrated, right, for various reasons. As I said, there's the back and forth, right, because it can't just go from the bot to the agent, but it can actually go from the agent back to a bot as well. That's super important, because this getting stuck is what frustrates people, right? Talking to the bot and then having the ability to talk to a human agent afterwards is super important.
I'm actually wondering if that $3 a minute thing wasn't part of their deflection strategy that you guys were talking about.
I'm sure.
It was actually even worse, because you had two options. One was chat with us and one was call us. So I clicked chat with us, obviously. And then it said, sorry, there are no agents available, but you can call us. And then you click call us, and then it said it's $3 a minute.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think this kind of brings us to our last question today, which is specifically, how can 8x8 and Cognigy actually help their customers to get ready to implement AI in customer service? I think we've actually covered a lot of this, but do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I mean, look, our job at 8x8 is to sit down with you, the contact center owner, buyer, user, figure out what your use cases are, and then bring this technology on board to specifically solve those. Like, let's get the technology in, let's get it ramped. You're going to find it does a lot more, a lot quicker than you thought. And we've tried to make it super simple to get that first use case underway. And look, credit to Cognigy. Your orchestration layer is amazing. What you've built is fantastic. Typically, once we help you get that first and second use case, some engineer is going to be plugging away on 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and we're happy to help you. But really what we're trying to do is lower the barriers to that first use case. We've got services available. We've got professionals that can help you. I've got people in my center of excellence who've been 20-year veterans of running contact centers that can come in and help you with the case deflection strategy or getting your knowledge base in a place it needs to be, all that other stuff. We'll help you with all of that. And then I turn up to Philipp to say what Cognigy is awesome at.
Yeah, so what we've built a conversational AI platform that is leading the industry in ease of use, right, in making it possible to quickly deploy these types of advanced artificial intelligences. And then in partnerships like with 8x8, and these partnerships make it really easy for customers to adopt it, because you're not on this journey on your own, right? You have 8x8 experts, you have Cognigy experts that can help you when implementing this. We can implement it for you as well, right? I think that is the key. We take the years and years of experience that we have in this space. We take leading software, both on the CCaaS side and on the conversational AI platform side, bring that together to help you and other customers get up to speed quickly and get value out of this new type of AI technology very quickly.
All right. With that, I want to thank both of you for taking the time with us today. Hopefully we'll manage to get you back sometime.
I'd like that. Jared, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. And
we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Perfect. Thanks.
Bye.